Terence "Bud" Crawford defeats Israil MADRIMOV with a unanimous decision over 12 rounds. Now, this was a fight of Israil kind of reverting or resorting to his amateur style in a sense, and it was Terence CRAWFORD acting as a minimalist to do the minimal amount that he needed to do to eke out this win. Now, the judges gave Terence 8 rounds, and one judge gave Terence 8 rounds, and the two other judges gave him 7 rounds. So it was a close fight, and many of those rounds were very close and difficult to score, but there's no way I would say that it was an outright robbery. Now, the point that could be debated is the fact that we always say if you want to take the belt, you have to take the belt from the champion. You just can't, eke out a win, but that's exactly what Terence did in this case. So rather than debate the judges' scorecards, let's take a look specifically at what Madrimov did and didn't do, and then also Terence's side. Now, I suspect that the moment, the big fight moment, did somewhat get to Madrimov. I mean, he may not want to admit it, but this is his first venture on a huge stage in front of the American audience. And so I think, when that happens, there's a certain amount of nervousness and pressure, and that can get to a fighter. And if you have that sort of internal sensation of a little bit more nervousness than usual in a fight, your body kind of just starts to go on sort of automatic. So even though you intellectually know, hey, we worked on this in training camp, and this is the game plan that my corner and I discussed, and this is what I need to do, or this is what I should be doing, in that moment where there's a little heightened nervousness and I won't quite say fear, but when that's elevated beyond, just a little bit beyond what your regular feeling is during a fight, then it's as if your body just takes over and it just starts doing what it knows to do from so much repetition in the past. And in Madrimov's case, that is most certainly his Eastern European style of amateur boxing that came back out. I saw that throughout the whole 12 rounds of that fight. Now, so specifically what I'm pointing at is this rhythm that he used to sort of feint with his whole upper body, where he'd kind of make this little waving motion with his upper body. It was always sort of the same rhythm and the same tempo, and then he's using that to feint, like as if you don't know if he's going to punch or if he's going to go high or low. But he kind of maintained the same rhythm, even though he was keeping his head off the center line and he was changing levels. It was nevertheless a very constant rhythm, constant tempo, and that gave something for Terence CRAWFORD to read and play off of. So my point is that Madrimov is so sort of conditioned to doing that rhythm with his body that he couldn't quite suddenly just kick himself out of that rhythm and change the pattern, because that's what you need to do in order to catch your opponent, off guard, as it were. If you're going to set a pattern, the only reason you're setting that pattern is in order to break it. Now, the second aspect of that Eastern European style that didn't really serve Israel well in this particular fight was the fact that that whole Eastern European system is based on the fact that the fighter is going to be way on the outside, use that kind of feinting motion, repetitive feinting motion, and then suddenly dart in with the jab and score point, and then dart straight back out, and then maybe move laterally, but then rinse and repeat. You're going to constantly do that until you can try to set up that straight right hand. Now, the main issue with that Eastern European style, when you want to go from that to transition to fighting pro boxing, is that the athlete has not been conditioned or is not yet comfortable in that middle distance range where you want to get in and then out, but not all the way out. You want to get out so you can cut an angle, force your opponent to turn and then catch them. And then you're also not going to stand toe-to-toe, Eastern European style, stand toe-to-toe and just bang to the body and bang to the head. that's not part of the sort of objective of that style. So I don't feel that Madrimov is comfortable yet in that middle range, and certainly not all the way close in. He's certainly not as comfortable with that as he is with his previous amateur style. So now I'm gonna assume that Joel Diaz. I'm sure Joel Diaz, Madrimov's trainer, has been working with him on kind of adapting to fighting in a more so-called American style of boxing. But again, in the sort of pressure and heat of that moment, no matter what they were working on, I feel like Madrimov was going to he did just sort of revert more to what Madrimov did well. Was he did land that hard right hand more than a few times, and there was certainly that swelling on Bud's face. Now, the one thing I wish was that he would have been able to put that punch together with other punches and follow up. In this case, Madrimov, sometimes if he did miss with the right hand, what then happened was he just smothered his punches and had no follow-up from there. So that is the sort of classic issue of just always end. If you're going to end on the right hand, the issue is if you miss, you're going to fall in and you don't have space to counter or come back with another punch. Now, what Madrimov also did well was he did stay patient. Now, I'll circle back to that because that was a double-edged sword in a sense. But the one thing or two things that he didn't do those leaping in punches. I'm glad he didn't do that, because that would have left him wide open for counters by Terence, who's got a great set of eyes and would have taken advantage of those movements. Now, here's where the patience was sort of a double-edged sword, because I feel like at some point Madrimov needs to sort of jump into another gear, feel a sense of urgency, and take a little bit more risk just to hopefully get his punches off. Now, whether we agree with the judges' scorecards or not, I think we do all agree that Terence took the last 3 rounds. And that shows us just how experienced Crawford is at pacing himself and then being able to turn it up in the championship rounds, plus the 10th round. Now, this pacing and this being able to do a final 3-round surge, this is a skill set that you're only going to acquire in the lab itself, meaning by having 12-round fights. So take a look at Terence's record. He's been fighting 12-rounders for the last 10 years. His last 18 or 19 fights have all been 12-rounders. Now, they didn't all go the distance, but simply by being signed up for a 12-rounder, you prepare for those 12 rounds, hard 12 rounds. And so, Bud's body, again, is just programmed to be able to deal with that fight duration, and he knows his body knows automatically, okay, and it's time to pick it up now. We're in the championship rounds. Let's go. So the lack of having that skill is certainly not something I can fault Madrimov for, because he only has one 12-round fight under his belt. This is just a skill that he's going to pick up over time and with more experience. Now, it's almost as if Crawford was satisfied to let Madrimov win the first half of the second half of the fight, meaning rounds 6, 7, 8, because he knew he was going to surge 10, 11, 12. Again, that's just experience and confidence, knowing that that your body is going to be able to do what it needs to do down the home stretch. That is not something that a good trainer would tell their rookie fighter to try to do that, because they just don't know if their body is going to be able to turn back on for the final surge. Now, on the part of Crawford, I think it was smart tactically for him to fight the entire fight out of southpaw stance, because that automatically puts Madrimov's power hand, his right hand, further away from Bud. Now, it also puts Bud's power hand, which is his straight left, further away from Madrimov, but I mean, Bud isn't relying only on a straight left to win the fight. Whereas we know that Madrimov, you know, that's really one of his key weapons is his right hand. Terence also kept, he was also incredibly patient throughout the whole 12 rounds. He kept a responsible double high guard for the most part. And the thing is, he did show these little moments of real sort of brilliant athleticism where he pivot out and spin around, but he didn't start to enjoy doing that too much. Again, because I think he just knows that he doesn't want to take chances with this person who's got his whole career at 154 or higher. So although I'm sure Terence saw opportunities to do these little hot dog moves, I think he was disciplined enough mentally to say, you know, don't do that. Don't take these chances. It's not worth the risk. So in summary, I think Crawford's win is an example of vast experience overcoming potential size differential. Tell me what you guys think of the fight. Who would you like to see Crawford fight next? Do you think he can take on Canelo at, what, 160, 168? What do you think Madrimov's next move should be? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for listening.